Well, hey, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome back to the channel for this, our special Andor, Episode 5, completely open spoiler discussion after show, of course, the new Star Wars show, Andor. I am John Campea, and I am joined by Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing?
John, I have to tell you, now that we're getting the Star Wars I've always dreamed of, I feel that my life is better.
Life is always better when there's good Star Wars to experience. And of course, life is always better when you're joined by Kris Carr. Kris, how you doing?
I'm doing great. This episode was rad.
Listen, I'll tell you what, I was just telling Kris before the episode started that it feels so good to every week know you're looking forward to a great episode of House of the Dragon and a great episode of Star Wars and a great episode of Rings of Power. Now that you don't have to be worried about Andor, and Rings of Power has gotten better and all that kind of stuff. It's just really good. And, I said it this morning on the John Campea Show. You're coming off of, at least for me, it was so important, coming off of two disappointments back to back. Not terrible, but two disappointments in both Obi-Wan and Book of Boba Fett. To come off of those into something really strong was really important. And hey guys, listen, thank you for joining us. If you've got a thought, comment, or question about Andor, we've got the super chats open. They're only going to be open for another minute or two. So if you've got a thought, theory, opinion, or question about this episode of Andor, go ahead and throw that in. But, I want to start with this because we talked about a couple things this morning. But for me, the dialogue and the storytelling in this episode was the best the show has been so far. Now, I understand there was no pew-pew and there was no explosions and no chases and stuff like that. And I get that. And if you're really worried about that, go back to your Saturday morning cartoons. I kid. I'm busting your balls, our fellow fans. But I mean, this to me was so next level stuff. Like everything in the conversations, the conversation between the mother and the son.
And that's how the episode opens. Yeah,
and that's how the damn thing opens. I love that character, by the way. That mom is everything to me. I love I don't even know what the characters' names are. I couldn't even tell, other than Andor, I couldn't tell you anybody's names. What was it? Skeet? The one that put the knife? Scrim? Scram? Was it? Anyway, he had, the guy put the knife. So, I mean, that whole story about his brother and stuff like that. And I mean, the line he says, there's 5 different lines in this episode that I would say is my favorite line. But the line he says, "I've always hated the Empire. I don't have a word for what I feel right now." Oh. I'm like, oh, next level writing in this damn thing. What were some of the moments that stood out for you, Rob?
Well, the funny thing, I just wanted to say first, what you're saying, how they talk about how, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they have different genres,
yes.
70s conspiracy thriller. This shows you, obviously Star Wars is a pulp sci-fi fairy tale. The original Star Wars, that's how it was designed. George Lucas wanted to get the rights to Flash Gordon. Famously, he couldn't get them, so he did his version. This feels like it shows you that you could do almost any genre of story within the Star Wars universe. Because you've got these multiple storylines. Like Kris said earlier this morning, you have two mothers, the juxtaposition of who thought Mon Mothma's storyline as a mom and a wife would be compelling.
Yeah.
If you told me that, I'm like, well, Mon Mothma's going to begin the rebellion. I had no idea that she's having a conversation with her husband about the driver of their car, their speeder. And I'm riveted. This is not what I thought Star Wars was going to be.
When are we going to tell me about your foundation? I didn't think you'd be interested. Why is that? Because it's charitable.
I love that line.
Come on. Come on. You're watching this stuff, and I'm looking at this going, this has changed my perception of what Star Wars is. And I think the bouncing around of these storylines, you've got a guy he's being teed up to be one hell of a villain. Like you said, in one glance.
As he's looking at that thing of Andor, they communicated his rage, his obsession, his all this kind of stuff. They communicate all that with just a single glance of a single holo. And it's I was telling you, it reminds me of one of my favorite scenes in movies in X-Men 2, when Pyro goes into Bobby's house and he looks up and he sees the family portrait of Bobby. And it's without them saying anything, we know that Pyro had no family background, or at least certainly not a happy family background. He clearly had to run away from his family. And it's just the way he's looking at this family portrait is without 5 pages of dialogue to do it, boom, they just showed us. And that one scene when he opens up the hollow of Andor was so reminiscent of that for me.
Dude, and you're right. And we're bouncing around with these storylines. You've got all over the place. It's not just about Andor. And again, I am as riveted. I'm riveted with we see Stellan Skarsgård. Just the few moments we had with him in this episode, all of these storylines, you can see it's like a noose being slowly tightened around the neck of the galaxy. But man, that's what I love about this show. I never expected to be as engrossed from a thematic and from a character story sense as I am in this show. I mean, I'm blown away by it.
Mm-hmm. And the Imperial turncoat, that scene where you realize he has manipulated this whole thing. It's like, well, you know what? Your guys are going to be down here tomorrow night painting that thing, blah, blah, blah. Oh, no, sir, no, sir. Just let us leave just a skeleton crew down here. Fine. And then he turns around, walks away, and he grins because this is exactly what he wanted. Again, next level. It's incredible. Hey, Kris, what are some of the highlights for you of the episode?
Oh my gosh. I mean, the mothers. I love Cyril's mother so much. She is such a tough cookie. I love that line too of anyone of decent breeding knows that an open invitation is no invitation at all. Like, she is so uppity. I love her.
Shit.
Yeah.
It's so great.
It's so wonderful. I'm so intrigued by learning more about who his uncle is too. Because obviously we have some high power player in here that they're going to be dealing with as well. And I really, really connected with these rebels. I mean, I said it on the main show today. I fell in love with them. I think that Skeen is great on this. I also love him from the Bear. Ebon's having a very good year. Good for you, man. And then I can't remember his name. I'm so sorry, y'all. The one who was talking about the old tech and how Imperial tech is something that we've relied on, which is another form of their fascist regime.
And his other line, the threat from above isn't nearly as bad as the threat from below.
He's wonderful.
Are you kidding me?
He's he has such a clear vision of what he wants and what he stands for that I 1,000% think he's going to die horribly. And I'm very upset about it already.
Oh, I think, listen, when you think about Cassian Andor, the one that we meet in Rogue One, this is a guy who has seen the crap and has been through a lot of loss, and he's jaded and he's all that kind of stuff. I think we are looking at the menu of his suffering dinner coming up.
Yep.
I think a lot, if not all,
This is just the appetizer.
of these people that he's with are going to die badly. The mission succeeds, but people die badly. We're just seeing a lot of things that are going to color the palette that is Cassian Andor that we know a little bit later on. But again, like this, you go into an episode of TV and you're hoping for one or two like really great moments, you know? And I just felt like in this, like everything from I hated the Empire before, now I don't even have a word for it, to the line when she's telling Andor about the Imperial officer's background, and she says, everybody has their own rebellion. And I'm like, the lines of that, he never said police work was for you. It's like, and you see like, he loves his mom, but man, he hates his mom at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, so all the moments going on there, the stuff, and by the way, with the Mon Mothma thing with the home life, you realize what the picture they are painting for Mon Mothma for us here is in the last episode when she's talking to Luthen Skarsgård, when she's in talking to Skarsgård, and she's talking, you don't understand. I can't just move money around. The eyes are everywhere now. I'm being watched all the time. So you understand that her as a senator, her life is under siege on that entire front. But what they are showing us in this episode is her life is under siege at home too. She has no safe harbor. Like even at home, she believes, you could tell, that her own husband would turn her in a heartbeat. You get that sense that her own husband would turn her in.
So would her daughter.
And now we understand that even probably her own child is more modeled in the form of her father than she is of her mother. This is a woman who has no quarter given. She has nowhere to turn. She is essentially an army of one in trying to raise this rebellion, and she's got nobody to confide in. And the one person she's got to go into the back room and hush whispers. I mean, the stress this character is under.
I can't wait for her to meet Manny Bothans and take her away from all this, baby.
Wow. Okay, so I just get with all that. And then, of course, I am a sucker for heist movies. And so as the plane, I just love it as they're marching on their way to the base, and where's the weak points on the containers? here? How many meters between that and the exit point? This. Well, like just all this stuff about this idea of the plan and the little details, like as they're mimicking, they're marching towards, he goes, you guys should switch sides. And
that was awesome.
Then she says, wait a minute, why? Because this, and this. What handed is he? Right-handed. What handed is she? Right-handed. It's like, okay, so we are learning about the siege, but we are also learning more and more about Cassian Andor and what gifts he brings to the table. I mean, that's the thing. This freaking show is taking every single scene and using it to convey multiple points of information, whereas a good show just makes sure at least one point of information is being given per scene. I mean, on that level, it's just driving me crazy.
You know, there's a little detail when they had the model of the Imperial base. And then they burned it.
And then they burned all of it. All the evidence got burned.
I loved all that. That was just they didn't like have some lingering. It was there, you saw it, but it wasn't. The show presupposes great intelligence on the part of its audience, and I love that.
I also really, really liked when we got to Luthen too. Not only seeing his worry and concern about the mission going, but having who we've seen posed as his assistant be able to call him out on his shit.
Right.
Yes.
I love that had a power dynamic shift of you're being useless.
I'm just about to shut it down. You said that an hour ago.
Yeah, go clean a toilet. Do something helpful. Get away from here. I loved that power shift because no one's talked back to him thus far. I mean, Mon Mothma has been put in her place. The rebels have been put in their place. He's been calling all the shots. To see somebody who previously was shown as a lackey be able to call him out, I thought was really fun and interesting.
A little bit of Pawn Stars vibes in there too.
Yeah.
Go polish some coins.
Exactly.
It's like, okay. I just want to see now a Star Wars Chum Lee come around the corner or something like that. That would make my day.
Now let me ask you this, John and Kris. I'm expecting some fireworks next week. You've seen it, you know, because it's in 3 blocks. I'm thinking that like next week. I know you're just staring at me. You're not going to give me any.
I'm not going to say a thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't.
Hi,
Do
come
you
over
think
here,
there's
buddy.
gonna be-
Hi.
Are we gonna have fireworks
Hey,
next week?
I hope so. I hope we do. Because we talked about how we hoped that there was going to be a really uncomfortable dinner scene that we got to see, where I was hoping it was going to go full Inglorious Bastards and people are going to be shooting at the dinner table. Obviously, it's not going to happen that quickly. I wanted that, though. So if I don't have some fools getting cooked, I will be a little bummed. I want some pew-pews.
Another thing, they certainly set up that something's going to go horribly awry when this vehicle has to move through that tunnel.
Oh, absolutely.
Is it already set up? Sure, yes, already. And we
It's
saw
not
it.
gonna be
We saw it sitting there in the
got to
hangar.
see it. Yeah, and I'm just thinking.
It's
by
not
the
going to
way-
be on that rail.
Yeah.
Yeah, can I just talk about the production design and how they use practical locations? I mean, obviously, we saw last week they had the McLaren cars. They went in their headquarters. That Imperial base, the interior of that base, is awesome.
Yeah.
Like I know it's a combination of visual effects and whatever, but still, even where they're standing up top, talking about the scenery and you smell them, whatever, there. I mean, all of these things, it feels like Star Wars. We haven't had anything that feels that practical.
The lived-in universe.
The lived-in universe of places that feel like they exist. Even the interior of the Death Star in Star Wars, with the big the chasms and it felt real. This feels so real. I love it so much.
And here's one thing too. Like, it's one thing when you have a Tidarian shuttle that's flying across an Endor sky or whatever like that. But when you're in a real environment and you've got real hills and everything, and you see one of those shuttles flying in front of one of those, it just does something. We have a lot of mountains around here. And I know that feeling I get when we're driving either close to like the Ontario airport or something like that. And there's literally, depending on where you are, for a good stretch, you can see a plane lower than the mountaintop side. So you literally see a plane flying against the background of a mountain. And they're like, whoa, you're inspired by that. And I remember seeing that shot in the episode that, you know, the Tidarian shuttles flying by, but real landscapes. And you're like, it's never felt more tangible. It's never felt more real.
And also, I'll tell you something else. When the TIE fighter is flying by, like in this episode, I was scared.
Yeah.
Like I'm going, is the TIE fighter going to turn? Because it looks from the air, it would look like our rebel band there, our brigands that are about to attack. Like it looks like, hey, these are farmers. They've got places where they can put cattle and there's animals and all that. But I was terrified that TIE fighter was then going to turn around and come strafe them. I don't know why.
No,
but
it's just
no.
literally it was an
Same.
Imperial being an asshole.
Yeah.
It's
That's what it
the
was.
same equivalent of some piece of shit revving their engine when they're going by you, and you're like, cool.
Yeah.
You're so cool and you're fun at parties.
And I mean, this scares me, and I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Again, it's just such a different change of gears for what, because it felt like in previous Star Wars shows, whether it's Obi-Wan or even Book of Boba Fett, and to a degree Mandalorian,
Right.
it feels like, okay, every episode we need 2 action beats. Like you have to have these big action beats, at least 1, maybe 2 per episode. And it feels like for Andor, Tony Gilroy just goes, no, I'm here to tell a story. And there's going to be action. There's going to be action. But the action is going to be earned, and the action is going to be used to tell story. You know, I've always, one of my favorite sayings that I came up with is like, action without narrative purpose is just visual noise. And oh my God, in Book of Boba Fett, there was a lot of just visual noise going on. But like this, every time something is happening, like even just go back to episode 1, right? First scene, he comes out of the brothel. He's followed by those Imperial guys or the corporate security guys.
Cops.
And there's a little action beat there, series, but that was for full narrative purpose. Like that action scene only happened because they needed it to tell the story about what puts Andor then on the run and all that kind of stuff. And I feel like every time we've come across something like that, even going back to the last, or I think it was episode 4. Was it episode 4 or 3 when finally the big shootout in the streets happened when the corporate guards show up?
3.
Was that 3? So I'm already losing track of the episodes. But even that was telling the story of the frustration of the people who lived there. The fact that people, like the fomenting angst against the Empire amongst the regular people living in that world is already, like they were telling that story, and they used the action or the violence of it to highlight and draw attention to the story that's going on. And that's what makes it so compelling. That's why when I see an episode like this, and it's just all story, all narrative, all plot, all machinations, it's just like my mind is blown by this intricate puzzle they are putting together. I'm not even sure if I like this show more than House of the Dragon. And I am loving House of the Dragon.
Yeah.
I may like this show even more. I know. Were there any weaknesses in the episode for you guys?
I wanted my dinner scene.
Yeah.
I wanted, they built that up of how awkward this dinner was going to be. And I wanted to see that. I wanted to see Mon Mothma having to be that politician and not blow her cover as a spy and navigate all of that. Because what I've liked so far is there's been a lot of show instead of tell. And that was an example of, no, don't tell me about the dinner party. Show me the dinner party. Show me the awkwardness. I want that.
Are we
Rob?
going to get it?
I thought it was supposed to have
think it's already
happened.
passed.
Okay. Well, I was going to say at some point we have to meet those people. We have to,
Not necessarily, do we? Is it important?
I don't know. I don't know if it depends who. Yeah, but I guess we don't. But you're right. I mean, I would like
I
to
liked
see that. I don't. I find this show so compelling. The only thing that I don't like about it is it's too damn short.
Yeah.
And again,
Yeah.
I mean, I understand they're 90-minute. These are essentially 90-minute movies. But I looked. It was like 44 minutes long. I'm like, oh yeah. But then there's the
6.5 minutes of credits.
Yeah.
I could not believe that. Like when the credits started to roll, I'm like, wait a minute. And I brought up the menu and I saw there was still 6.5 minutes left. I'm like, I can't imagine there being a post-credit scene, but it was 6.5 minutes. And I started scrolling.
I did the same thing.
There and it's like, oh no, it is
It's
6.5 minutes of credits.
Just a lot of artists here. Just a
And-
lot
Yeah.
of folks making it happen.
And once again, I got to talk about the music.
Yeah, stellar.
The music on this show is incredible.
Can we talk about the use of the triangle? I've never thought I'd say that sentence, but the chiming
Yeah.
being used in there, I was just like, it just put you on edge because it didn't happen in a syncopated rhythm. It would just happen. And it was
Yeah.
like, the hell is that? I was through a drink.
No, everything about the show is so first rate. I feel like we are getting movie quality. This is movie quality Star Wars. I mean, I never think to myself,
You know
I'm
what?
watching
It's
a
movie
TV
quality
show.
Star Wars, but it's beyond. Honestly,
Ooh.
honestly, my signal's out. We have technical difficulties here, people. But listen, they don't even do some of the shots in the movies.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Oh
that they're
no,
doing.
there
The
are
tracking
cinematography
shots? Yeah.
tracking shots that are going on that I've never seen in a Star Wars film.
No, incredible. And there was even scene. There was a scene where you had the rebels like stretched across the top of a hill.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just this incredible. I'm like, wow, this.
There was a little bit of
gorgeous.
Fellowship of the Ring feel
Yes,
to it a
yes,
bit, right?
there was. Yes, there was. Totally.
Like and by the way, too, I love how they do the callback to with those 2 Imperial officers who were getting manipulated and they didn't even know it. Down there saying, well, what's the name of the world they're on? It starts with an A.
Aldini?
Aldini? Oh, it's the Aldini post. it's not everybody's first choice, but the one thing they hear is they get to see the eye. And so they so call back to that. They're hyping that up. They're building anticipation. They're working in our understanding, our pre-existing now understanding of the world. This scene is so good, but they're building on that pre-existing understanding of the world that they already laid foundation of earlier, building anticipation for what's to come next, and all the while showing his plot, his scheme, and seeing it coming together. And again, it's like a great heist film. You start to see all the little details, all the little manipulations start to fall into place, and it becomes really damn exciting. Anyway, guys, we could sit here and wax poetic about this episode all day, but we want to get to the important thing, which is to hear from you guys and what your guys' thoughts of it were. So we're going to go over and start taking those now. But before we do, we're going to take a second and thank the sponsor of this episode, our friends at the Amazon Pharmacy. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Amazon Pharmacy. I don't know about you, but when I need to go to the drugstore, I always seem to wait till the last minute, hoping that they'll be open, or I get stuck in a line, or both. And that's why I love Amazon Pharmacy. Yes, that Amazon. Amazon Pharmacy delivers a better pharmacy experience that delivers directly to your door and works with most insurance plans. Amazon Pharmacy helps you save time, save money, and stay healthy. They have transparent pricing, so you know what you'll pay before you pay it. That is clutch. As an added bonus, Prime members can save up to 80% on their prescriptions. And like I mentioned earlier, Amazon Pharmacy works with most insurance plans. And if you ever have any questions or problems, real pharmacists are always available at Amazon Pharmacy, no matter the time of day or night. A pharmacy that works for your life, with meds delivered to your door. It doesn't get any better than that. Switch to Amazon Pharmacy and save time, save money, and stay healthy. Learn more at amazon.com/Campea. That's amazon.com/Campea. Average savings based on usage and Inside RX data as compared to cash prices. Average savings for all generics are 78%, 37% for select brand medications. Restrictions apply. And thank you to our friends at Amazon Pharmacy for sponsoring this episode. All right, guys. That down, let's get into your thoughts, theories, and opinions and questions about this episode of Andor. Kris, what do we got in here?
From Tim Platt. The more I think about it, the more impressed I am with the show. Even though I wasn't a fan of this episode, I got so hooked by the first 4, I still can't wait to watch more.
I mean, it's absolutely true. And like I was telling Kris beforehand that I'm still 2 weeks away from being able to watch new episodes. But I mean, at least it's only like 2 weeks away now. I've seen half the season. I saw up to episode 6. I have not seen anything else beyond that. But you're right. For me, like it goes back to the brilliant decision to release the first 3 episodes at once, because the first episode, if just taken on its own, I don't know if it would have hooked. The first 3 episodes hooked, and then 4 built on that, and then 5 built on that, and then 6 builds on that. And it's, you're right. It's absolutely very, 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 very hooking, if you will. All right, what's next?
From Ryan Launer. There's a real sense of history, like we're about to see the Star Wars version of the battles of Lexington and Concord.
I mean, listen, I will say this. There's a building of anticipation. Like they have been slowly building up to this. And we got to remember, we think in terms of episodes, but you think in terms of minutes, right? These are relatively short episodes. So a lot happens in very, very quick amount of time, but that amount of anticipation they're building, that you feel like you're getting up to something. Like if you hearken it back to Rings of Power, right? The last episode of Rings of Power, we didn't know it until it was happening, but we were seeing one of the most pivotal moments in the history of Middle-earth, the creation of Mount Doom. And you feel like we're building up to something here that's going to become a touch point that people who know Star Wars are going to say, oh, this is the moment that this happened, right? So you do kind of get that sense of it. All right, what's next?
From Santos Henderson. This episode was marvelous. We're beyond chosen ones and feel like we know what happens inside people's lives in this universe. I feel the desperation they're going through. So amazing.
John, that's the thing I really like about this show. For the very first time, you feel the boot of the Empire on everyone. It was very difficult to understand, other than the fact that the Empire is bad, but now we see why. And I feel it. I feel the oppression every episode. And that's something I didn't realize that I was going to get from the show.
They had that quick campfire conversation where they're saying the Empire is clenching down on us faster than we can keep up. That says a lot.
Yeah. Really good stuff.
All right, what's next?
From Stubble McShave. Wanted the dinner with Sly M and Co. House of the Dragon would have had it.
Yeah, but House of the Dragon has 70-minute episodes. Andor does not. So they listen, I think we got, but this is part of the brilliance of the show. We got narratively what we needed from them talking about the dinner. Then the dinner itself would have given us. If the dinner wasn't giving us information we needed for the rest of the show, that's wasn't true. A point we already got, then it's not needed and you can cut it out. But yeah, I would have liked to have seen it too. All right, what's next?
From Senpaigar? Senpaigar, thank you. When this was announced, I was one of those that said, I have no interest in this. This show's tone, production, acting, sword characters are great. I'm in the same camp, man. I was like, yeah, Rogue One was fine. This is going to be fine too, I'm sure. This is great.
And you know what? I have to walk back on something. Because for a long time, I said, well, okay, I'm interested. I'm interested in the Andor show to look at the dirty side of the rebellion, right? I said that for years. I said, but one of the things killing some of my anticipation is K2SO. Like, there's no K2SO, and especially after you watch Rogue One again. When K2SO steals the show, right? It's like, no K2SO. But now that you've seen this, you're like, yeah, nope, K2SO should not be in here at this point.
No.
Because it would, like, K2SO is going to be a wonderful new dimension to bring into.
Andor's heart isn't ready.
That's right, into Andor's life. This show would not be firing on all cylinders if K2SO was in there dropping his hilarious dialogue.
I agree.
And just bring it up. So I have to walk that back. I said, the one problem with this show is going to be that there's no K2SO. I'm like, you know what? Nope. Right decision not to have him in season 1. We'll get him in season 2, but right decision not to have him in season 1. All right, what's next?
From Marie Seifring. I saw Rogue One when it came out in theaters. I rewatched it on Disney Plus Monday to refresh my memory. Diego Luna doesn't look any older.
No, he really doesn't.
No.
And that's the glory of facial hair. I guess you can hide a lot of different, and not to mention, it's not like Rogue One came out 15 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't that terribly long ago, but yeah, rewatching it in theaters when they put it out a number of weeks ago, that was such a great experience. Absolutely loved that.
He's clean shaven as Clem. He's a baby.
Yep.
He's just a little
But
fetus.
even just from an acting point of view, he's picking up a character that he left off, but he's a younger version of that character, and you still feel like it's that character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But with a little more like headstrong and stubbornness thrown on there. I love it.
All right, what's next?
From Senpar again. I'm loving the show. The way Diego Luna delivers his lines is great, especially when he gets angry or does that snarky laugh when in disbelief.
Oh, he does that in Narcos too.
Oh, he totally does. But I loved that moment when he just said, I'm being paid.
Oh, it was great.
So good.
And they said, you're not afraid. Of course I'm afraid. But there's a difference between being afraid and losing your nerve. I'm like, oh, remember I said you just hope in every episode you watch of any show you get one or two really great moments. This episode had like 7 or 8 of them. He says there's a difference between being afraid and losing your nerve. It's like, you want out, that's fine. Don't use me as your excuse.
Right.
I mean, just
It was great.
And when the guy says you would have done the same, he goes, and there's that little chuckle you're talking about. You keep telling yourself that. It's like, oh, it's just, the writing is so good. It's so stupid good. All right, what's next?
From Stubble McShave, Andor seems to be 4 movies cut into 3 arcs: setup, development, and resolution. I suspect episode 3 will have a complication in the start. Prediction: either the kid or the Asian-looking woman is a traitor.
Which one is that?
Okay, so the way they told us in advance that this whole thing was going to be was that season 1 takes place in the span of 1 year, and there's 4. It's one story, but kind of broken into 4 parts. Each one of the 4 parts, 3 episodes long, and each having their own beginning, middle, and end. And of course, they did that very well with the first 3 episodes, and now we've come into the next 3, and then let's see where they go with the rest of them. And then when we get into season 2, every 3 episodes is going to be a year. So we're actually going to cover 4 years in season 2. That will bring us right up to the beginning of the events of Rogue One. And so as far as predictions go, I don't know. This is the great thing about this. But I guarantee you this, it's going to follow some seeds and some threads that they're planting right now. That, like, once you get into the second half of the show, and that's one of the great things about this show too. And Disney Plus, please take note. If this was one of your other bullshit shows that had 6 episodes, we'd be going into the final episode next week. And yet we're not even at the halfway point of the season yet.
No.
So please stop with the 6 episode bullshit. But yeah, I mean, that's the great thing. I just don't know where they're going to go. And that's a great feeling. I love it. It's kind of like Kang at the end of Loki. I don't know what happens next. This is pretty awesome. That's what it's like. All right, what's next?
From Aiden Foley, under or under 0% Uncle Harlow is Darth Maul.
Yeah. Oh God, Harlow. That's right. It was Harlow. I thought it started with the U. Harlow. Harlow will know. I mean, just I don't know, but I want to meet Uncle Harlow. I am dying to meet Uncle Harlow.
Oh, I think we're gonna meet him.
I really want it to be like another Luthen personality, though. I want to just be more Skarsgård in a different wig. And him being like, hello, I'm your uncle.
I want him to be like,
Hello, I'm your uncle.
Is it Uncle Eddie or Uncle what in Seinfeld? Remember?
I can't remember his
I
name.
want to be like that.
Oh, that'd be
Or who?
great.
What's the name of the uncle that shows up to take young orphaned Braveheart at the beginning of Braveheart?
Oh, yeah.
What was his name? I'm your uncle.
Is it Argyle Wallace?
Argyle. That was it. I'm your uncle
Sweater
Argyle.
Wallace?
Just shows up.
Good old
I'm your
sweater
uncle
man.
Argyle. Come with me.
We're going to France and Italy.
All right, what's next?
From Marie again, sending a $20 super chat.
Thank you, Marie.
Uncle Leo.
Uncle Leo, there we
That's
go.
right.
Character details are interesting. Andor recognized that the tall, skinny rebel served time in prison from a chest tattoo. Andor says that at 13, he was put in a juvenile facility. Character background from conversation.
You know what? You're probably right. That is not what I thought he was talking about. I thought they were talking about a military outfit because we found out in an earlier episode that that Andor, of course, was enlisted and was fighting and stuff like that.
Oh no, it was a juvenile facility.
So you're right. My mind was on a totally wrong wavelength. So yeah, and he says, "Do they know? No, they don't know."
Yeah.
But your eyes went right to it. So yeah, it's those little moments, right? Oh, so good, so good. I mean, and that's the neat thing too, because Andor has had. One of the great things they've done is that Andor has had revealing interactions with every single one of this ragtag group, right? Everything from Sintra to obviously he's had a couple of the lead. Again, I don't know the character names. The leader girl. They had a couple characters with leader girl, stuffy, upset big boyfriend, Screech, whatever. Screech?
No, it's Screech.
Okay. Screech? Like Saved by the Bell? Screech? Okay. Screech. The kid, like the philosopher kid, as I call him. I mean, it just
Who's great, by the way.
Who's great, and every single one of those interactions, Marie. Every time there's a conversation, it's never for the sake of the conversation. It's to reveal something to us as the audience and to Andor as a character, and it's just the construct of it all is just
It's fantastic.
stunningly good.
So
Stunningly
fat.
good.
It's a lean script.
All right, what's next?
From Bert. Did anyone else notice the trident-shaped tattoo on Arvel's skin was similar to the trident shape on Mon Mothma's daughter's sky blue satin robe?
No,
I did not clock that.
I didn't either.
Okay. I have to go and look at that.
There it is. The hand. Didn't they say that's the hand something?
Oh.
It did look really similar.
Because,
Okay.
there was the whole
That's
about
got to be
this one.
coincidence.
And then
Maybe it's
there are
the
no
big band at the
coincidences,
time.
John.
Maybe it's the hot band in
The
the galaxy
Smash
at the
Mouth of
time.
the Star Wars universe.
I can't catch it on his arm there. in
Man,
that
he actually
shot.
looks like a welterweight UFC fighter. And that he's got a good fighter build there. Good fighter build. And he looks like he's getting ready to cook.
Well, he's been punching guys in South Chicago. So.
That's right. All right, what's next?
From
we got
from
wrapped
Albert.
up in that.
There we
There
go.
you go.
Albert. Should they introduce Force wielders in Andor? For me, I'm really enjoying this perspective of the rebellion without the Force involved.
Shit, no. Here's one of my frustrating things about the Star Wars universe, okay? There aren't supposed to be any left. At least,
People are supposed to believe it was fake or something like
yeah,
that.
I mean, to the point that the Force users and Jedis are starting to pass into myth, even though it was only several decades earlier. But the thing is, there's supposed to be so precious few left in the galaxy, not just in this town or on this continent or on this planet or in this particular system, but in the entire universe. There's only supposed to be, technically, there's supposed to be none, but just a couple here, right? And yet every time we come to Star Wars, there's 48 new Jedi we didn't know were still survived. And over here, there's 135 other new Jedi we didn't know. Every single Star Wars story has to feature 2 or 3 Jedi you didn't know survived. And can we just tell a story about the galaxy? Listen, Luke Skywalker is my favorite Star Wars character. I love the Jedi. Yet lightsaber duels are my favorite part of the Star Wars universe. Absolutely. But this is a big universe. We should not have Force users every single effing time we step into the universe.
Dude, I'm with you. I mean, I think that doesn't belong here at all. It would be totally out of place. Suddenly people are using their magical powers.
No.
Your
they can
sad
talk
devotion to that ancient religion has not helped you
They can
conjure up the stolen data tapes.
Yeah, they can make reference to lore, but exactly, it has to be an ancient religion that's just lost.
Now, of course, it's because that's the case, because every time we step into the Star Wars world, they bring in 37 new Jedi we didn't know were still out there. It makes it a very valid question, because we've had it in everything else, even Mandalorian, which we thought at first going into Mandalorian, oh, it's just going to be the old gritty Western, the gunslinger in the West. Nope, we're going to have baby. And I love, don't get me wrong, I don't misperson this, it's Baby Yoda. I love Baby Yoda, but immediately it's like, nope, we forces right back in here again. And if that's not enough, we got to bring in Ahsoka, and now we got to bring in, so it's totally a rational question. Very, very reasonable question to ask. But I'm just like, no, please, God, no, do not bring in Force users into this show. Please don't.
I think that $30,000 credit,
Kyber.
30,000 credit Kyber crystals is as close as you're going to get.
And, that's not to say there may not be somebody in the show who maybe used to use the Force. I'm just saying. All right. Okay. What's next?
Let me ask you a question.
He's stuttering. You got Rob excited.
What are the odds that Kyber crystal is put into a lightsaber by the end of the show?
What's next?
From
That's me sidestepping a question.
How great was the sound when the TIE fighter swooped in? So good.
Heart pounding. And the idea about that, that sound, while we all hear it as an audience and we instantly recognize Star Wars, we hear that sound and we're taken to a galaxy far, far away. That is the sound of oppression.
Yes.
To people in that universe. And as he does that, Pete Maverick Mitchell buzzing the tower as he flies by them just to be an asshole and buzz them, you see them like having to cover their ears, and like that reminds us that while we all think of it as like one of the great sound effects in movie history, yes, but to that world it is the sound of oppression. And I love the way they use that. I totally did. All right, what's next?
And terror.
And terror, yes.
From Sam Fisher. I never thought about Mon having kids.
Neither did I. Like when they went in there, the daughter was, I'm like, oh, well, okay, this is a new dimension. But I never thought of her as having a husband either, or a home life, or like, it's just the way they keep giving texture and dimension, different levels of dimension to these characters is so great. They're adding to the lore. And I love that.
But I hate her husband.
But I hate her husband.
I hate him so much.
With his dumb hair.
So much with his stupid bun. Hate you. Hate you, guy.
He has fun friends.
Sam Fisher again. I think Vel is Luthen's daughter.
Huh.
Could work.
I could see that.
By the way, I love the line when the quote unquote assistant says, tomorrow will come and they'll either be okay or they won't be. Well, that's bold prediction.
Yeah.
They'll be okay, but they need this to work. They need this to work.
And she's like, well, this time tomorrow we'll already know. It'll already have happened.
This time tomorrow it's going to be over. And it's like, I just love the way too, he's like, do you have your getaway bag or whatever he called it, your flight bag, whatever, do you have your bag ready to go? Like, are you ready to just cram out of here if things go south? Oh, God, I love that.
Also, that was a good callback to what Andor said, because he said, right when he was talking about, oh, that's not just fear, that's wanting to cut and run, because he said it's always the day before because you have so much time to just sit and think about it.
Yeah, you just think about it and you overthink about, again, just brilliant line after brilliant line in this episode. All right, what's next?
From Harps K. The economy and detail to the character work is so good. Miro popping pills before reading 2 more Imperial files, Cyril's talk with Mom over cereal, and just carrying out this team in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
Can I just say again, I know I've listed about 9 of them already. Another one of the best lines of the episode, it's too random to be random.
Yes.
It's like you see, but only from an Imperial's point of view, this is like a cop procedural. And
Right.
she's the cop, but really she doesn't realize she's the villain, but she's putting the pieces together. She's unraveling this mystery. And again, the little assistant boy, who clearly has a little bit of a crush on her, is like saying, it's all far too random to be random.
But what's interesting is you want her to succeed.
Yeah, I know,
You know,
right?
you're like,
Yeah.
I hope she figures it out. Like, I'm like, yes, please.
Climb that ISB ladder. You show that other guy. This just that one scene too. They don't even have any dialogue. All they have to do is pass by each other in the hallway, and the look she gives. And it's like, oh, this is so perfect.
So many glances,
I mean,
smirks.
That's the thing. This is how you know the show is doing really well. They could do an entire episode just in the pawn shop. They could do an entire episode just in camp. They could do an entire episode just at the Mon Mothma house. They could do an entire episode at the ISB, and I would be perfectly happy with all of it. Or just an entire episode at Mom's house with her kid eating blue milk cereal.
Eating C-3POs.
Now I want to see like a comedy family drama, Mon Mothma's House, coming from Disney only to theaters in 2024.
What happens if Mon Mothma, as part of a charity thing, decides to invite a random family on Coruscant to dinner and invites what's the dude's name? Cleary,
Cyril.
Cyril?
Cyril
Kern?
Dinner.
Yeah, the guy.
Uptight boy?
The guy with the Jewish mother.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. She's invited a random family in Coruscant. Come on over for dinner, and like, you have that family dinner. That would be. I want that episode now. Now I want that episode.
I think that'd be fun.
All right, what's next?
From Sam Fisher, this show has great one-liners like the axe forgets, but the tree remembers. And everyone has their own rebellion. So good.
Everyone has their own rebellion is the part. Like, I just love the way she succinctly put it when she goes, loved a woman, didn't get the promotion, lost the woman. Everyone has their own rebellion. And I'm like, and then you flash back because I missed it. I missed it the first time I watched the episode. It wasn't until I watched it again that I picked up on it. But like when he's standing on the top of the base and he's talking to the one Imperial officer, it's like, it's the smell of these people. Like, can you even try to imagine like a whole gathering of them here? And he's biting his lip. Yeah, I can. And you're like, okay, well, all right, whatever that means. And I didn't catch it the first time I watched the episode, but the second one, then when she's telling the story about it, it's like, oh shit. Now, a lesser storyteller would have had those scenes in reverse order.
Yeah.
And made it, because this is that you put it something one way, Rob, that I thought was brilliant. You said they assume, this show assumes the intelligence of the audience.
Yes.
It doesn't feel it needs to speak down to the audience. It assumes the intelligence of the audience. And I failed the test the first time I watched it because I totally didn't even equate the two, but just so good. Now I love this. Like when the Imperial guy first shows up in camp, like, oh, okay, here we go. Hey, it's going to be one of these stereotypical one-dimensional kind of characters. But now they've turned him into somebody who's like, I want his whole story. I want this guy's whole story. Anyway. Okay, sorry. I could keep going, but what's next?
From the sock, I would die for Nemec and proudly follow Taramyn. Excuse me.
Who's that again?
Taramyn is the grouchy guy who's leading, who doesn't trust Clem, i.e. Andor.
Big boyfriend who shares a blanket with the with leader blonde girl.
And then I believe the other fella is that our great philosophical tech
Young
whiz?
kid?
Is
Maybe.
that
Or the girl.
maybe?
But by the way, I love it too when
Taramyn.
she walks in at night and she goes, blah, 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 is in charge completely. I need you to tell me you understand that. It's like, okay, it's like she's like laying down the law. And and he's just like, you're not going to get any problems from me. It's like,
You know what? It's funny. I also loved now the quick shot of the gold or whatever it was that's in the hangar. Like, was that
the credits?
Yeah. Those are the
You know,
credits.
I loved even
In
the way
the
they were
rolls?
designed. Yeah, and those
In the
big
roll.
and I'm like, that's a lot of money. You know, I mean
Yeah.
that, and it's so even that it was set up so you're like, you know exactly what this. Okay, this
There's
is worth,
the prize.
This is worth the risk.
There's
And
the
at
prize.
first, I didn't know if it was going to be like digital, like they just had to do like a digital download to take all those credits digitally, or if it was physical. Now we know.
It's physical currency, and I want a scene where they all bust in 3 Fiat Minis or Cooper Minis, 3 Cooper Minis. They
Jason Statham and
Jason
Seth
Statham's
Green.
driving one of the cars, pull up, pop the thing, throw the credits in, and make your escape. It would be perfect.
Start yelling about how they're going to avenge Michael Caine. It's going to be off the rails.
All right, what's next?
I saw that movie at the Chinese theater, and then they do that scene in front of the Chinese theater. In that
Oh
movie.
yeah, that would be meta.
Off the rail.
Off the rail. All right, what's next?
From Dangerous Lee, even without bombastic action scenes, the writing is so good that when each episode ends, I'm already salivating for the next. Absolute win for all. Fire emoji.
Here's the thing. when great action scenes, whether you're talking about the bus fight scene in Shang-Chi, which I still think is the best action fight scene, the best fight scene in a Marvel movie, or the best overall action scene for me in a Marvel movie, the airport fight in Civil War. When you get things like that, a good action scene that ends and you realize you weren't noticing while it was happening, but when the scene's over, you realize I'm having to catch my breath. I'm getting that same sensation at the end of these conversation dramatic scenes.
Yeah.
That when he finishes having his conversation with his two Imperial lackeys and then walks away and smiles, and that scene ends, and then you realize, I don't think I've breathed for the last 45 seconds. I think I've been holding my breath for the last 40. Like, it's just you're getting that same kind of endorphin sensation at the end of these scenes as you do from these big action scenes. And that is the hallmark, I think, of like absolutely terrific writing. All right, what's next?
From Harv's K, 5 episodes with only one real action sequence so far, and I am so engrossed by this friggin' show. This is stellar work.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, again, when the big action set pieces happen, and there are big action set pieces on the way, but like that one we had in the streets of the first planet, they're earned, they're set up, and then they are used to bring to climax story, not just for the sake of an explosion. It's just so well done. It's perfectly utilized.
Well, in episode 3, I love how that action sequence also showed how everything kind of turned to shit.
Yes.
You know, I mean, in the dire nature. And I love that because the best laid plans of mice and men, like you say, what does Mike Tyson say?
Everybody's got a plan till you get punched in the mouth.
Yeah, they're going to get punched in the mouth. Hard.
And by the way, I'm a big Les Mis guy. I'm a big Les Mis. There is a wonderful Jean Valjean v. Javert thing going on because not only did
Celebrimbor.
No,
Cyril Kern.
I'm just gonna think of
Just keep doing that.
Cyril DeBerge. Yeah.
Taylor one day was like, "What's his name? Syphilis?"
Syphilis.
Which I thought was was a great one.
But because not only did his life get ruined by Andor, but he actually came face to face with Andor, and Andor spared his life. Even when Lumiere, even when Lumen is saying Lutheran.
Tell me he doesn't look like Agent
Luthen.
Cooper right there.
Who's Agent Cooper?
Like Sly Cooper?
Kyle MacLachlan.
Oh, okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. But
Celebrimbor.
even when he's being told, kill him, just kill him right now. Andor spared him. So just like in Les Mis, if you know Les Mis, Javert has this, it was one of the best characters in all of fiction, by the way. But Javert faces this spiritual conflict. He is absolutely dedicated to bringing to justice the Jean Valjean. But he has a moral imperative that Jean Valjean spared his life and saying he owes him his life. And at the end of it, it ultimately drives Javert to madness. And he realized the only way I can make sure I uphold pure justice, but meet my spiritual obligation, he let Javert go, he let Jean Valjean go. But by doing so, absolute justice demands that he be punished. So it ends with Javert taking his own life because he's just so torn and conflicted about that. And I look at this thing and I see Jean Valjean in Andor and then Javert in Clementine, whatever his name is. And I see that dynamic. And this guy, you can see not only does he have this massive hate on for Andor, but he's also torn. Look at him. He's torn. There's conflict in that face. And I think we're going to get a beautiful Les Mis kind of analogy going on here. I'm very excited.
You know what? I think that's very astute of you because that absolutely is something that they would wrap into this storyline. I mean, that's a classical tale that's all of this is coming out of classical literature.
Yeah.
It's so.
I think he's going to have the opportunity to shoot Andor, but then he's going to be in love with him so much that he's going to fall on the ground and shoot his guns up in the air and be like, no!
Or shoot himself.
Oh,
if you really want,
I was going more Swayze with it.
Javert ending, he shoots himself. And like, there's a song Javert sings. Nobody cares about Les Mis, but I'm just saying, there's a song Javert sings at the end.
One more day.
And where basically he's saying in the song that before he kills himself, he goes like, "Damn this Jean Valjean guy! Why the hell do you have to save me?" So like now, I free myself of this world of Jean Valjean. Javert is no more, and like kills. Like it's one of the greatest moments in all of storytelling. But
I love when you reveal yourself to be a song and dance man. I've always loved that.
I just love good stories. I'm not really a song and dance fan.
You are a song and dance man.
There's no dancing in Les Mis.
Well, some choreography.
I've seen it in Broadway.
There's some moving.
I saw it.
We've lost half our audience.
All right, what's next?
From Aiden Foley. By the way, totally a holocron on Luthen's shelf.
Not
Two of
just
them.
A,
Yep.
but two.
Two of them.
Two different types.
Both times. Just going to Disney, going to Star Wars Land Disney. You'll see lots of those.
I
all
want to
over.
be Sith and Jedi.
None of those sides. None of that size. Because I would buy them if they were that size.
Right, yeah.
But what this dude guy's got holocrons in his shop. I mean, you think the Empire would be a little miffed with that?
And next to the holocrons on that top shelf, it looked like he had a bunch of bottles of liquor.
Which is immediately what caught your attention.
That's what caught my attention. I was like, I wonder what if those are tasty.
All right, what's next?
From Harv's K, the screen grab of Luthen and his shelf of curiosities that you put up earlier on the main show. I swore I saw Sankara stones. Sankara stones.
Sankara stones. Ooh. Listen, there are so many Easter eggs in there, and they're not just from Star Wars.
Right.
They're not just Star Wars Easter eggs in there. So I was told that the idol from the beginning of Raiders of the Lost Ark is actually in one of the shots. I haven't seen it yet myself, but that would seem like it would perfectly fit in well there. All right, what's next?
From Aiden Foley, I thought episodes 1 through 4 were really good, but episode 5 is the first one where I can say I absolutely loved it. Great dialogue, great depth, great tension.
Yeah.
Episode 5 becomes the moment that Andor becomes not just a great Star Wars show. It becomes a great show, period.
Yeah.
This
I
is
agree.
one of the best shows on television, period. Not just in the Star Wars realm, not just in the Disney Plus realm, not just in the streaming realm. It is one of the best shows on TV, period. And I think it might even be better than House of the Dragon. I mean, we gotta let both of these seasons end out, but I mean, they're both very different shows, but they're being done at such a high level that I'm just not accustomed to seeing shows being done like this. Like, you expect to see one show like this every 3 or 4 years, but like you'd get The Wire, and then several years later you'll get Sopranos, and then several more years later, at some point you get a Breaking Bad, and but right now we've got freaking House of the Dragon and Andor going, and it's like, and Yellowstone is out at the same time, and it's crazy the quality of stuff that's out there right now. All right, what's next?
We did Aiden, right?
Yes. Okay. From Tim Platt. I know I'm probably in the minority, but I wasn't feeling this episode. In my opinion, this episode wasn't slowly burning. It was just slow. Nothing really engaged me.
I mean, listen, this is the great thing about the art, is that all art will hit us all in different ways. And if that's the way this episode hit you, then that's the way the episode hit you. That's totally cool. For me, this was not a slow burn.
No.
There was multiple high-level things happening in every single scene of character development, plot exploitation, depth and dimension, context building, like it just, and all being done in such an intricate way that you're like seeing the threads being weaved together. So I contend it was not, I didn't even think it was a slow burn. There was stuff happening at a very rapid pace in this episode, at least for me. I'm not discounting your experience with it. We all experience things differently. And sometimes there's stuff that people experience really positively that it didn't work for me. And that's this time for you. But for me, it was almost a breakneck pace, honestly.
No, I agree with you. But it is very different it is a very different Star Wars.
Yes,
So there's going to be
absolutely
an expectation with people about what Star Wars is. And this show is forcing us all, I think, to sort of readjust. And a lot of people haven't readjusted yet. They're still waiting for, when does the Star Wars start? So I think once people know what it is, I bet there's going to be a lot of people that go back and rewatch this again and get more out of it.
And somebody brought it up in the live chat. I think it's Matt Tween. I want to see a pepper tree now.
Yeah.
What's a pepper tree? I want to see that. I've never heard somebody say a tree farmer.
Right.
But I guess that makes sense. I guess you would have tree farmers, but okay. Sorry about that. I went off on a tangent. What's next?
From Brad C. Anyone else notice the old school navigation device the guy shows Andor is a Polaroid SX70 instant camera? Love it.
Oh, yeah.
I know it looked like it, but by the way, can I just say one other thing? When you go, we'll get back to the camera thing, but when you go back into
Luthen.
Luthen, when you go back into Luthen's shop, there are like 5 of these Rode mic arms all over the place in his shop. And it's these specific ones. They're all over the place, like holding up trays and whatever. And they don't even try to hide it. I mean, they took off these little things on here that literally say Rode on it. They took off these little bands, but other than that, it's totally these Rode mic arms that are like all over the place in his shop.
Well, I was going to say, when he first brought out that navigational device, I'm like, that's a Polaroid.
Yeah, it looks like a Polaroid.
I'm pretty sure it is.
But I love the fact that they do that, because they did that all the way back when they made the first Star Wars.
Yes, they did.
They're always taking real stuff and repurposing it into something else.
That was also a great philosophical moment there.
Yes, it was.
Oh, yeah.
That again, go back to what I said earlier. He has these moments with every single one of the, I mean, he had his one with Sintra in the previous episode, but he's had those moments with every single one of the crew, which is going to make it all the more heartbreaking when they die.
Dun, dun,
All right.
dun.
And that thing must come into play. That device.
All right. What's next?
From Brad C. Anyone else notice? Oh, sorry, that was the one we just did. From James Wheeler, who sends in a $20 super chat.
Hey, James.
Hello, everyone. I was thinking Cyril's mother sounded familiar. Her name is Catherine Hunter, and she played the weird sister in the most recent Macbeth.
Oh, yes.
nice.
Yeah. That is totally
That's
her.
her.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't recognize the face, but the voice.
The voice
Yeah,
is very
the voice.
distinct.
The voice
Oh,
is
man.
so distinct. You are 1,000% right.
Yep.
Oh my God. Great way to nail that one. That's great. Excellent. Well done, James.
Thank you, James.
All right. What's next?
From Tim Platt, the more I think about it, the more impressed I am with the show. Even though I wasn't a fan of this episode, I got so hooked by the first four. I still can't wait to watch more. I think we already read this one.
No. He was talking. He did mention that wasn't a big fan of this episode in the previous one. But I mean, listen, that's the sign of a really good show when you can hit. Listen, every show's going to have an off episode. House of the Dragon hasn't had one yet, and I don't think Andor's had one yet. But even your favorite shows, even like one of my all-time favorites, Sons of Anarchy, it would have an off episode now and again. The sign of a great show is when an off episode hits, and you're just like, whatever. Right. And you're just ready to hop right back on the next thing. That's when a show has really got you. And I think that's a great testament to how good this show has been so far. All right, what's next?
From
Kevin?
Kevin Rubio. our
Kevin
friend
Rubio.
Kevin. Hello, Kevin.
Well, it's official. The Star Wars universe has Jewish moms, Gamar Tov, and Tazim Kal.
I don't know what that means. Rob, you probably do. Translate.
I can't translate that.
But happy
because-
Yom Kippur.
Yeah, it is Yom Kippur.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It is Yom Kippur today. Actually, it's the end of we're almost, I guess, if the sun's gone down.
Yeah. We're
But
not
yet.
quite there.
We're not quite there yet.
I was just waiting for her to say that she was verklempt. Like
Yeah.
I was just like that whole. I could have the whole episode could have just been that conversation at the breakfast table with him eating cereal. I could have watched a whole half hour of that. It was so good.
Well, I think also she's a combination of ethnicities. You know, not just Jewish mom.
No, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was definitely some
I was going to
Italian.
say, that's my mom.
There's some definite Italian
Yeah,
mom in
little
there. as
Asian
well,
mom
yeah.
in there too, I think.
But again, what I love too is about that. It's kind of like the lieutenant. When we look back at the last episode, when he shows up at home and the mom smacks him and grabs him and hugs him. Now you look back on that scene with the colors filled in with the scenes we've got in this episode. And all of a sudden, that moment at the door, slap, hug, it has so much more meaning. And it tells you so much more.
Yeah.
It's just,
And again, her dialogue's brilliantly
It's
written.
so good. And, you know, in Mandalorian, they already had established this, thanks to Bill Burr, that there is a Boston in the Star Wars universe.
Right.
So obviously we are going to have a lot of Dorchester mothers. So
the Boston system.
I'm happy to see my family represented.
my friend sent me this great, because one of my best friends in town, Soul, he's a Boston kid, right? So I remember he sent me this great picture, and he sent me a picture of a pair of pants, right? And it was a picture of these pair of pants, and underneath it just says, "How in Boston you say car keys," and it's khakis. So I was like,
Khakis.
man, I can't find my khakis. It's like, so, I don't know why I always think of that whenever somebody brings up Boston. I just think of my buddy from Boston sending me that. Okay, is that it?
That's it.
Well, guys, damn it, that'll do it for this episode of our Andor After Show. Thanks so much for being here and joining us for this. I am losing my mind for this show. It gets better and better to me. Again, it's a totally different kind of Star Wars than we've ever had told before, and it's the one we needed. And oh my God, coming off of Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan, we needed this, and I'm so glad we're getting it. Perfect timing. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining us. I want to thank the people in the room who have joined me for this little journey talking about, of course, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett, and of course, the wonderful Kris Carr, producer Jonathan Voico running the show back there, and I have been your host, John Campea. Don't forget, guys, to come on back tomorrow morning and join us for the next episode of the John Campea Show. We look forward to seeing you there. Maybe we'll sing some more Les Mis songs. I don't know. Could be a surprise. We hope to see you then. Anyway, my name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.
I dreamed a dream.